The best interest of the child. This episode was supposed to be about the codes, the statutes, of the phrase that we hear in family court decisions, the best interest of the child. The plan was to break down the laws and the statutes, the revised codes, to get a better understanding of how courts claim they make their decisions. Since after all, this is the foundation the decisions are made on. But after my interview with Jared, a single dad who felt that in no way his children's best interests were considered, my research and my writing changed. Because you can't talk about best interest without talking about the parent who is the main caregiver. But don't worry, we will come back to the law. Because if the courts are going to say decisions are based upon the best interest laws and codes, it's extremely important to know what your state's statutes say, because it makes for an incredible argument. If you know how to speak the legal language and you know what it means, you use the correct terminology in court, a way to prove that the best interests are being considered. And if they aren't being considered, at least you have it on file now and it's a documented paper trail. Hello and welcome back to Black Sheep Diaries, the show where we pull back the curtain on the family court system that impact real people and real families, and where we give you the platform to tell your real life story and experience within the family court system. So today, instead of looking at the codes and the statutes, we are taking a hard look at how a parent being dragged through court financially, emotionally, mentally, and even physically is never within the best interest of the child. How can anyone say it's the best interest of the child when the parent who protects that child, who nurtures, shelters, and supports them, is dragged back into court year after year after year? How is it the best interest of the child to watch the primary caregiver, often the only stable force in that child's life, suffer under the crushing weight of legal warfare? We call it a custody battle, but let's call it what it really is: court-sanctioned abuse. When a parent is forced to spend tens of thousands upon thousands of dollars on attorneys, court-appointed GILs who can change mid-case, on reunification therapists who don't even know the child or anything about their case, when the parent is drowning in financial ruin just to keep their child safe, that stress doesn't just stay with the parent. It seeps into the child's world as well. Children are not blind, even though sometimes the court treats them as if they were. The children see the tears, they feel the tension. Children who get dragged through court, unfortunately, become very observant, and they develop a keen sense of emotional survival. They learn to read the room before they speak. They anticipate conflict before it starts, and they decode adult behavior in ways no child should ever have to. And yet the system pretends that this is normal. They pretend that it's due process. These children are not naive. What kind of best interest lets the abuser weaponize the courtroom again and again and again to exhaust the very parent trying to protect that child? When does it stop? Why aren't these endless filings, the repeated motions, the psychological games being labeled for what they really are: legal abuse? Why isn't the court stepping in to say enough is enough? You've had your day and you've had your say. You don't get to use this courtroom as a weapon anymore. We are not here to be your personal tool to satisfy your vendetta and unresolved personal matter. Because let's be clear, the family court has become the abuser's playground, not a refuge, not a protector, not a place of justice. The court system that was meant to shield the child has become the tool that shatters their stability. If the court cared about the best interest of the child, it would care about the health of the protective parent. It would care about their financial safety. It would care about peace, not just procedure. But instead, it pushes families to the edge and then calls it fairness. This is not justice, and this is not child-centered. And let's not forget the part the court overlooks: the unpaid labor. Because on top of massive legal fees, what about the time it takes for the parent to build their own defense? Because let's be honest, if a parent wants to avoid being completely annihilated in court, especially when they're up against a parent who is only there for the fun of the fight, they cannot solely rely on their attorney. The parent becomes the one tracking down the records, organizing documents, building timelines, and bringing the proof, because no one knows a case better than the one living it. That parent is also digging through emails, collecting text messages, organizing court filings, comparing previous motions, printing therapy notes, medical records, school communications, and so on, all while trying to survive. This becomes a second full-time job. So what about the parents' billable hours? They're working late into the night, waking before dawn, sacrificing weekends, not for the extra pay, but to prepare for the next courtroom ambush. And still, no one compensates them for those hours. There's no paycheck for the hours it took to build their case, no overtime for protecting their child. And all the while, that parent is still holding down a full-time job. They're showing up for their child's life. They're holding it all together in one hand while using the other to pay for a guardian in another counselor, another hearing they never asked for. And what about those hearings? They're scheduled without regard for the parent's work schedule. No consideration is given to job obligations or income loss. And even worse, for the parent who is the defendant and didn't want to be there in the first place. The court calendar moves for the professionals in the room, not for the parent who has to request unpaid time off just to show up. And somehow this isn't factored into the best interest of the child. How is it in the child's best interest for their primary caregiver to be financially drained, emotionally depleted, and professionally penalized just for defending their role in their child's life? If a parent can't work and they're buried in hearings and legal prep and therapy sessions they did not initiate, how are they supposed to provide stability, safety, financial security? Quitting is a luxury for parents in this position. It's not just unsustainable, it's inhumane. This isn't justice, it's a slow bleed. And the child, they're watching every moment of it. These children are far more aware than the system assumes. If anyone believes that the children, the ones caught in the crossfires of all this, will simply forget, they'll grow up and move on, they'll never question what was done to them or to the parent that stood by them, they should think again, because these children are not like the others. Not because they chose to be different, but because the court system forced them to be. They were forced to grow up too early. They understand things no child should have to understand. They sit in waiting rooms with evaluators who are strangers, in back offices with judges who don't know them, in counseling sessions designed not for healing, but for compliance. They saw too much, they heard too much, and they felt betrayal. They felt the fear in their parents' voice. They saw the exhaustion in their eyes. They watched the protector become the persecuted. But someday, these children will connect the dots. And when they do, they will not be silent. They will speak out about what the court put them through, about how their voices were ignored, about the parent who was dragged, punished, and silenced while trying to love them, protect them, and just survive. Their memory of this will not fade. They may be quiet now, they may comply, they may not have the words yet, but they are watching. They feel the injustice, even if they can't explain it. And one day, they'll be old enough to speak, old enough to name what happened, call out what the system did to them, and to the parent who fought to protect them. These children are not broken, and one day they will speak out. So when the courts say we're acting within the best interest of the child, let's ask again, whose best interest is being protected? Because it's not the child who's forced to endure years of legal chaos. It's not the child who loses their safe parent to anxiety, burnout, or financial devastation. It's not the child who watches their life turned into a file number in a courtroom that never listens and loses court recordings. No, the real interest has been lost, and it's been buried under invoices, hidden behind titles like GAL, evaluator, therapist, each who is paid to play their part in the court. So parents, don't stop fighting, because you are the one who really knows what the best interest of your child is. No one knows it better than you. Your babies will be okay because of you, because of your relentless fight. Not a fight ripping apart or falsely accusing the other parent. That is not what it means. That is not what fight for your child means. This isn't a fight for control. It's a fight for love, a fight for safety, a fight to protect their child's joy, their peace, and even their future. So parent, keep going. Because of your strength, because of your sleepless nights, because of your refusal to give up, not out of bitterness, but because of your love, which is steady, honest, and pure. That comes from a love that no courtroom can ever replicate. You know your child because you see them, hear them, feel their pain, and celebrate their joys. Someday they'll connect the dots. And they'll know exactly who stood for them and why. And I don't care what anyone else says. Love always wins. So keep the faith. You're not alone. And you are not wrong for fighting with your whole heart. If the best interest of your child has not been considered in your court case, if your story is of pain, injustice, or survival, we want to hear from you. Your voice matters. Your experience matters. And by sharing it, you can help expose a system that often hides behind silence. If you're ready to speak out, to be heard, and to help others feel less alone, reach out to us. You deserve to be heard. And there's nothing the abuser of the system hates more than you speaking out. Our contact information is in the description below. Can't wait to hear from you. Oh, hi. Do you want to say hi? Come here. Come. I know you're a good boy. You don't jump. Boy, come here. This is Apollo. He's a good boy. And he's learning to become a therapy dog. How can you say no to that? You're so cute. Okay, enough. Cut.